Hi, my name is Sabina, and this is my dad, David.
Hello.
When did you first find out that you'd be a parent? How did you feel?
So I found out I was going to be a parent halfway through graduate school. And I think my first reaction was terror. I had. I really didn't think I was ready to be a parent. I was scared of how to be a good dad and at the same time make it through grad school. So that was the initial piece. Uh, Soon things started to change as we went shopping and started buying all the stuff you need for a baby and really realizing that this was a real person that was going to happen, or it's going to have a real person. And I don't know, I started to get more and more excited as we got closer and closer.
Can you describe the moment when you saw your child for the first time?
Yeah, so Dylan was actually born several weeks early, so he had to spend nearly 2 weeks in the NICU, neonatal intensive care unit. And so birth was pretty quick. Seems like, 2 good pushes and then this really little baby. So, he was immediately cleaned up and went to the pediatrician, and he's healthy. Just because he was early, he couldn't eat. Like, he didn't know, he hadn't developed the instinct for suckling and eating. So that's why he had to stay in the ICU. But I followed him. And I went to the ICU and I just actually sat and stared at him for probably a good 2 hours straight. And if you've ever experienced the feeling of amazement, it's usually pretty short-lived. It's a couple of seconds. You go to the Grand Canyon and you get there and you're like, wow. And then about 5 minutes later, you're like, okay, that was pretty cool, right? My experience of amazement was that 2 hours. It just didn't stop.
How has being a parent changed you?
I think there was a couple of big changes. Before I was a parent, I was cool, and I had time to do a bunch of things. I mean, I was in grad school, but there's still extra time. I remember I used to go to Five Color Cowboy and get my hair cut. And, that was a 2-hour haircut. I didn't have time for a 2-hour haircut anymore. That was over. I used to go shopping and, buy cool clothes and really didn't have time for that. Everything became totally regimented in my life and revolving around either grad school or baby. So I took the 3 o'clock feeding, which meant that I'd actually wake up like at 2:57, just automatically, which was really kind of weird. That I got, I don't know, so attached to this little person that I just, my internal clock or whatever at 2:57 woke up, and I'd have what, the new bottle and everything up to him. And the funny thing is, his clock also was set. So at right at 3 o'clock, he'd start wiggling and waking up, and we'd sit and eat together. Then there was a 6 o'clock feeding that mom would take, and I would get up and I would go to the gym and I'd exercise. Next thing you know, I have to get ready for school. We leave for school at 7:30. We go to school, blah blah blah. Then baby, then study, then go to sleep, over and over and over again. So totally regimented. Was something that I was starting to experience that I'd never done before, right? I always had kind of flexible time. And I definitely wasn't cool walking around with a boring haircut and a diaper bag.
What are your dreams for your children?
The biggest thing I try to focus on is helping them to have loads of opportunity when they reach 23. I'm not really attached to what path they decide to take, but I want them to have the choice of paths to take. So, my focus is really, how can I give them the experience, the diversity, the physical, mental, and emotional health, all of these things that open up opportunity for people. And, as a doctor, I'm always helping people to try to achieve these layers of health. But I think with my kids, of course, it's also the diversity of experience. Whether it's, I don't know, whether it's art or mechanic, working on cars, right? I try to give them both sides. So both kids know how to use power tools. Both kids know how to cook. Sabina knows how to check oil. It's some of these things sound pretty dumb, but like for baby brother, if he wants to go to X Games, or whether he wants to go to art school, or whether he wants to go to business school, I just want to essentially have him be able to make the choice, in a position to have choices. And I think there's a lot of young people who don't have many choices. And so that's really what I focus on as my dream for my children.
Do you have any favorite stories about your kids?
Oh yeah, I got lots of favorite stories about my kids. Let's see. One that's really funny is Dylan he wasn't talking yet, and it was time to take a shower, and he totally did not want to take a shower. I mean, he was screaming, yelling, kicking, and I think the only word he really knew at that time, mom and dad, but no. was the other word that he was really comfortable using. So I pick him up, I put him in the shower with me, and all of a sudden, I look down and he is peeing on my leg with this obstinate look at me. And at first, I was like a little bit, I guess, offended. And then, I thought about it for just a half second, and I realized how much courage it must take for a, little tiny guy to try to stand up to such a big guy. And I think that's a valuable thing. So some level of obstinance or defiance, I've actually welcomed with both kids, and I like that they feel comfortable standing up for themselves against me. I'm 6 foot tall, and Sabina might have been 5, and she's always a cool kid, sweet and so forth. But yeah, she'd stand up against me, and and part of me is like, you little. I don't know. This is for school, so I shouldn't swear. But on the other hand, it's a tough world, and people need to be able to stand up for themselves. So these are some of my favorites.
Do you remember any songs you used to sing to me? Can you sing them now? Oh God.
Yeah, there's there's one song that was kind of like my favorite to sing to both of you. And it really reinforces that you're loved. So it goes, you're my honey bunch, sugar plum, pumpy umpy umpkin. You're my sweetie pie. You're my cuppy cake, gumdrop, schnuggum, schnuggum, schnuggum. The apple of my eye. And I love you so, and I want you to know that I'll always be right here. And I love to sing sweet songs to you because you are so dear. And it was funny because I would sing that song to Dylan, and again, he didn't speak much, but he would go, cuppy cake, cuppy cake, cuppy cake, cuppy cake. And that was him telling me he wanted me to sing it again.
What were my siblings like?
So Dill Pickle, or Dylan, let's see, we call him Changuito, little monkey, and this kid just loves to climb on everything. It's funny because, he can climb, he can jump, he can do all kinds of crazy stuff, and he doesn't hurt himself. The times that he hurts himself is when we're sitting at dinner and he falls out of the chair. And both him and Sabina have this amazing sense of social justice, which, although I think I have a good I guess have a moral code for social justice, but this was something that, was surprising to see in, 4-year-olds, 5-year-olds, and it's continued. Just both of them with their sense of social justice and how offended they become when they see something that is just unjust. And it's actually really beautiful because they both have great hearts.
The hardest moments you had when I was growing up?
So, I think the hardest moments, my least favorite part of being a dad is the whole discipline stuff. I would much rather do things where I can say, great job, nice, right? Teaching Sabina how to ride a bike, or teaching her how to throw a baseball, or just recently teaching her how to drive. These types of things are my favorite parts. The hardest part for me is this discipline stuff. And we decided we weren't going to spank the kids. And I got spanked a few times when I was a kid. Yeah. Sabina's laughing right now, but I tried to burn down the forest behind my house.
Oh my God.
And I guess arson is something that my dad was not okay with.
Obviously.
Yeah.
Why would you burn down? How old were you?
I don't know. I think maybe 6 or 7.
What 6-year-old comes up with that? Oh my God.
Yeah. And my parents. I probably got 4 or 5 spankings in my life. So it wasn't a big part of my growing up. And we decided, we weren't going to do that. So now, how do we discipline? And a lot of it was timeouts, but Sabina was like, I don't care. Kind of sassy little attitude. She put her hands on her hip and move her head all in this sassy mannerism. And so timeouts was an ineffective deterrent. So now it's oh shoot, I gotta come up with something different. And then we tried this, and I'm so gross, but soap in the mouth thing, and the first couple of times it was it was a deterrent, and then for her she's like, whatever, I don't care, and she put her little hand on her hip, and so basically we just couldn't discipline her. And the great thing is there weren't many times when it was needed. Really fortunate to have 2 children who are kind and respectful. So there wasn't really a big need, but that was probably one of the most difficult parts for me. I hate that stuff. It's my least favorite part of being a dad.
If you could do everything again, would you raise me differently?
I think Sabina's the oldest, so she was really the teacher. She taught me how to be a dad. She taught her mother how to be a mother. And she taught Pickle how to be a kid in the family. And so if I were to go back and, I guess, raise her different, there's not a lot of things that I can think of that I would have. I can't think of anything off the top of my head that I would do differently. Maybe try to learn how to be a better teacher to a elementary student. It's really hard for me as a doctor to try to teach mathematics to a 4-year-old, right? Like, I've got 20 years of school, and addition is just something that totally comes natural, right? And I have no idea how to teach an elementary student addition. So I think, if anything, I would have searched for a mentor, probably, to help me learn the skills that I didn't have and still don't have. It's only been now that Sabina has gotten into, junior high, that I really feel like I'm effective in helping her in her studies for school. So I think if I could change one thing, I probably would have gotten a mentor and learned some skills for helping both children learn while they're in elementary.
What advice would you give me about raising my own kids?
So 3 things. Children thrive on consistency, touch, and connectedness. So if I was going to give you any advice, it would be very consistent. Be predictable for your child. Touch your child a lot. And find ways to get connected. So, with a 2-year-old, that means getting down on your knees, or even on your butt when you are talking to them, so that you can be eye to eye. It means getting into the games that they're into. The music I listen to is what Sabina listens to. Really, for the reason of wanting to build connectedness. Uh, if I listen, if I listen to the music that I wanted, um, there would be a disconnection. And so instead, listen to the music that she listens to. For example.
How did you meet my mom?
Uh, so Erica and I were both part of a service organization, and we had meetings once a month. And it was single mom and single dad, and she would bring with her this beautiful, wonderful little 4-year-old, and I would bring little baby carriage, or whatever thing you carry. I can't think of what it's called anymore.
Car seat?
Yeah, the car seat. There you go. With the diaper bag over, and like I said, not cool. And eventually, we actually got to meet. So I had seen Erica for probably 6 or 12 months, maybe 6 months, without actually being introduced or speaking to her or whatever. And I was lucky enough to do a carpool and actually ride the same car with her. And then from there, it just, I guess, blossomed. We started by doing play dates, and again, it was like 6 months. So it was going from Dylan being a year to Dylan being 18 months. And we started off doing play dates, and then gradually that evolved.
Are you proud of me?
I am incredibly proud of you. On so many levels, I am proud of you. I'm proud of you for what an amazing big sister you are to Dylan. The way you love him, the way you care for him. I'm proud of you for how you interact with both me and your mom. I'm proud of you that I can take you to a board meeting, right, with 6 executives, and introduce you to them, and that you're able to sit through a board meeting, and I have no trepidation, no sense of no fear of being embarrassed. I mean, it's that's great. And then I think as an athlete, even though you don't necessarily see it in yourself, right? You're a really good athlete. You're really talented at whatever you try to do. And it's been really fun, I guess, to watch you try different things. And it's finally, it looks like you found something that you're passionate about. Uh, but I'm proud of you for that. And then you're courageous, and I think your willingness to try new things, your willingness to um, you know push forward, and those are all things that I value. And again, I could just talk for about like 20 minutes about how proud I am of you.
When and where were you born?
Well, let's see. I'm 26.
No, you're not.
So let me do the math of when I was born. No, I was born in 1978, and I was born in southern Washington State, right near Mount St. Helens. So Mount St. Helens is a volcano that blew up in 1980, and it's kind of cool. I was sitting in my sandbox, 2 years old, when the mountaintop blew off. So,
Where did you grow up?
so my youngest years were, of course, in the area where I was born. But then later, I would say I grew up in this town called Enumclaw, which means evil spirits. And I had a cool experience growing up, which is that my dad was an executive. And so in Seattle, he had the, corner office in a skyscraper. And also, we lived on a farm. So I got the experience of having a tractor and driving a tractor and like having animals and all of this stuff, and also got the city experience of going to top restaurants and going to plays and so forth. And I think that's really where I grew up. We were talking earlier about giving the kids opportunities by giving them diversity of experience. And I think I had a lot of opportunities because of how I was raised and the diverse experiences I had.
Did you get into trouble? What was the worst thing you did?
Wow. So I don't even know if I should talk about this stuff. I got in a lot of trouble.
Say something appropriate for school.
Well, so again, I burned, there was the arson thing, but I was always I was mischievous. There we go. I think that's a good word for it. And I remember I was in 6th grade, and I was in skiing lessons, and every Saturday we would meet to go to the mountains and ski. And I stole a Playboy magazine from my older brother and took it with me on the bus.
Oh my god.
And the head of the ski school calls my dad. And Mr. Parpart, your son, right? In 7th grade, there's this stuff called Banaka. It's breath spray. And there's this guy named Lockdo. And I like I like pretty much everybody, but for some reason I didn't like this guy. And um, first thing I did was I took a lighter and banaka and I torched his basketball, which I guess the school didn't really appreciate because they let me take a 3 day vacation after that one. They called it suspension, I called it vacation. Um, and then the next thing I did, uh, and again, I'm not a mean guy. Like I don't know what this guy did to me. I'm not sure, but uh, I'm in the cafeteria. I got my pizza. I'm walking by him. I think he said something to me that wasn't nice, and then turned back to his lunch. And I just took my pizza and turned it upside down and put it on top of his head and just smeared it in. And I think for that one, I got a 1 day vacation, which the school called a suspension.
Who who has been the most important person in your life? Can you tell me about him or her?
So I have a lot of uh, people who have made great influences in my life. I've been very fortunate to, I guess, ask for mentorship and get mentorship. But, definitely my dad has probably been the biggest influence um, uh, in my life, in that um, I learned my work ethic from him. So my dad can, work at a level that most people can't. I learned that excuses aren't acceptable. He coached my baseball teams and other teams, so I learned sports and all of the lessons of team sports from him. And yeah, so I would say probably my dad is the single biggest influence.
What college did you go to?
So I started off at the University of Washington in Seattle, and it's a very big school. There's something like 35,000 students, and some of the classes at these large schools for freshmen um, have that have thousands of students. So one class I think had 2,000 students in it, and many classes or all the other classes had 150 to 400 students in it. So I went to the UW, and it wasn't right. It wasn't the right school for me. So I transferred over to a school called the Evergreen State College. So it's another public school in Washington. And this school is cool. They have no grades, no tests, and no core requirements. So instead of getting grades, your teacher writes an evaluation. Actually, first, you show up on the first day of school, and your teacher asks you what you want to learn. And once you come up with a response, they help you develop a plan to learn what you want to learn. Then at the end of the quarter, there's no A, B, C, D, right? They just give you a written evaluation of performance, and you write your own evaluation, and they award a number of credits. Um, the difference here is if you slack off, you go from 15 credits to 8 credits. Now, to graduate from college, you need to get credits. So that's what happens at that school if you slack off. At the UW, if I slacked off, I went from getting an A to getting a B, right? Who cares? Let's slack off. So it was a really cool place to go to school and a very different style.
Do you have any siblings? What were they like growing up?
So I have a family of 5, but my 2 eldest sisters were moving out as I was a child. So I hardly remember them in the home. I have an older brother who's 8 years older than me, and he was Mr. Perfect. He had in high school a 4.0 minus. He got a B plus in one class. He never got in trouble. He was a letterman. He was totally Mr. Perfect, and I was the kid who slacked off in school initially and got in trouble. So that was sometimes hard to live up to, but my parents at least did treat me as an individual, and so that was okay. We adopted my baby sister from South Korea when she was 4 years old, and I still call her baby sis. And we had a great relationship, and we still do. I think if I were to describe her, artsy, creative, funny. She's gorgeous, and oh my god. So my baby sister, she's gorgeous, and she used to sit in class in high school, and she would actually drop a bomb, right? And then blame it on the guy sitting next to her when it started to stink. Oh my god. Right? And now still, gorgeous and totally dresses designer, and at the same time, like, she'll just burp whenever. So I don't know, like, she's a nice contrast of lady and I don't care. I'd like to thank Sabina for asking me to do this.